What month did you get the dog?
I will not be shamed about the dog today because I'm cleaning and doing laundry.
No, but what month did you get the dog?
Was it late January or February?
So how many months has it been?
Let me see. It'll be like 5.5 months. 5.
So from February to now, it's been 5 months.
Oh no, this is like COVID fog brain. No, let's see. So if it was late January. So February, March, April, May. So 4 months.
4 months, thereabouts.
Yeah.
More like 3. February, all of February, March, April, and May just is over. So it's been like
4 months.
Four
You
months.
fucker. You really want to tear me up at this
How many
episode.
times do you think I've walked the dog in 4 months?
You think the dog needs like 4 walks a day in the Texas summer?
That's fine, but let's go with that. How many times do you think I've walked the dog?
Well, significantly a lot more. But who stays home?
No, but like how long have I walked that dog?
Well, quite a bit, but I don't feel bad about it. That's your contribution to mankind and animal kind.
I'm willing to bet, I would sell my soul to the devil if I'm wrong, that I've walked that dog maybe 120-fold to 1.
By choice. He
No,
does
I know.
Not
I get it.
This many walks.
I get it.
But
Here's the next part of it. I'm willing to bet, including my time with serotonin syndrome, that you've walked the dog less than 20 times since February.
Probably, but I'm willing to bet that I was juggling a little bit more at the time. Well, agree to disagree. Let's move on from it.
Let's move on. Welcome to Deplorables with Attitude. I'm your host, BenBen. Sorry, last week I had COVID, which I thought was over. I was actually really, really upset that I had it because I still do a little bit. Because it's over, but I had it for the 3rd time. Testing wise, I've been found to have had it multiple times, 3 times in the past with the antibodies in my system, and didn't know I had it. The worst of it I had was the Delta variant, I think, at one point, because I had some delirium. I watched that movie, The Lighthouse, with Robert Pattinson and William Dafoe, and I was by myself, and I felt like I was going insane while watching the movie. Then I took my temperature. I had 103-degree temperature, and I had like weird sores on my tongue. Apparently, it's a COVID tongue. It's an odd thing you can have. It was gross. And this all happened because of Robert Pattinson. And so,
Well, you may have had it like all month. I was thinking, because I got it.
But it went away.
Also.
It went away. It went away for it was 2 days of feeling weird. My tongue was not great because I talked about it on my podcast months ago. I couldn't I had to have like an accent. My tongue was weird, like Adderall tongue, where you get like canker sores or whatever because your cortisol levels are up because you become a meth addict for the sake of production, and but this time it's like I felt like I was a kid. Like you don't get sick a lot when you're an adult, and so when you get sick, it's almost like a childhood memory of trauma coming back, but not in the way of like your dad beating you because he can't hurt you anymore. But like, oh yeah, I remember what that was like to be hit by the belt. Huh. But it's not that. It's like, oh, you start to feel this ache and you're like, what is that? Why do I feel like this? It's not bad yet. It's like the beginning. My lower back was sore as fuck. And I was like, oh my God. I was like smiling. I think I'm getting sick. Oh, this is
I know. I think
it's like cotton candy at the boardwalk. Oh, this is one of those things. You can feel the sand beneath my toes. Oh, this is nice, And Omicron, apparently, you get back pain. That's a common thing. Aches, joints. But for the most part, it's supposed to be the most mild. And for me, it was the worst version of COVID I've had. And I'm like, but COVID's over.
So I have
to say, getting polio. Like right now. Like
when I visited you with a little care package, I was like, what do you need? I'll come bring it. And I come into the room and it was like dark. I think you had made like a cave and you're like, put it on the table. I was like, oh my God. Just like all giant cave.
And I had a deadline. I had like a project that I said I was going to do. Yeah. And I'm like, this new thing that I'm doing for someone. And I'm like, oh, I want to show them how, how amazing I am. And then I end up getting sick, like for like the first time in 25 years. Like through COVID, I wasn't sick. I was fine. I did everything. This literally put me on my ass. The least severe portion of COVID.
Well, at least I guess every time you get it, because I know now that I'm dating a doctor, but he said every time you get a different strain, you're immune to that strain. So you must be immune to like all of them now. If you think you've had different versions.
Whoopee.
This is what he told.
Yeah, you're supposed to be able. I was told that if you've had multiple strains, the reason why Omicron's the least severe in terms of like symptoms is because you've gone through the gauntlet. You've already either been vaccinated, like some people, maybe not me, and you've experienced being infected. But whatever, I could be wrong too. The test could be wrong. Like either my previous tests were wrong or this one was wrong, because I heard in the past the PCR tests were giving false positives as the regular flu. It felt like the flu. The only thing I looked up that was odd is the back. Like people got back pain because of Omicron. Yeah. And some people, and this scares me about the virus, they have these lingering symptoms. Like, and so I'm not talking about like brain fog. That's scary. I mean, like, imagine having a bad back and becoming like an Oxycontin addict because of COVID. Like, you didn't get in a car accident. You just got the flu one weekend, and now you're on the street living under a bridge doing Oxy. Like, because it, like, simulates the symptoms of having a bad back. My back was so bad, I took the giant, like, stuffed Snoopy or whatever the fuck out there, the dog. I put it up over my legs so it could take the pressure off my lower back, as if I just had, like, a bad deadlifting session. I threw out my back. It was the weirdest thing in the world. It hurt a lot.
So I tried to do a physical therapy move that I've used before on my clients, and you're like, yeah, try it out on me. Oh. And I was like, I tried to do it on you, and you're so long that I literally couldn't.
You don't know how to do any of the crack videos. All those videos online of the people cracking.
You need another giant to work on you. That's
the cracks. I used to watch those videos like it's cocaine. I could do all those things to people. I can do like the ring dinger when you're straight and you take like a band and put it under someone's chin and you pull back and it just cracks their entire spine. I can do the one where you're like the one we're talking about is it's not a suplex. That's a wrestling move. It's the lower the seriatim. Seriatim's not it either. Sciatica. Lower sciatica. It's your turn to the side. You bring your like right knee to your chest, and then the guy just like pushes really quickly, and there's a nice crack. It's not like a thing with having the hot girls in the yoga pants get cracked. That's part that makes it fun too. But I also like random people. I'm bisexual when it comes to cracking. I like watching guys get nice hard cracks. Whatever makes the most sound. It's not bad though seeing really attractive women wearing yoga pants getting everything cracked. Sometimes the celebrities, it's fun. It's like, because it's like celebrities, they can get cracked too. We're like the same. That's the whole thing you do. They're talking about like, look at my abs I did for this movie. Oh my God, you're an unbelievable person. You're the most fabulous person. You got abs for this movie. Incredible. You got paid $9 million to do this movie and you got abs. You just are amazing. That's why you are who you are. That's why I work at the factory. This little bullshit they kind of like do to separate them from us. But then like if they crack, we crack. We all crack.
What made me laugh about trying to like
everyone poops.
Ease it. So this move that I was trying to do on you was like you get on the edge of the bed and I'm supposed to like cradle your whole leg, but I couldn't because my arm span, like everything about you is so long that I was like using my entire body to try and just like hold your leg. I was like, this is
I swear to God,
impossible.
The CEO of this company made a joke about how because I told him about being sick and I apologized, and he was like he's like sold multiple companies, worked at like Hewlett Packard, IBM, and worked with semiconductor company. Anyway, he was like he made a joke. I'm like at work about oh, you must have you must have been going to the clubs and getting the monkeypox. Because they say the monkeypox is spread from bisexual and gay sex at raves in Belgium and Spain.
Do you think that was also maybe an underlying him wondering if you're gay?
No, he did this on a conference call with multiple people.
He could have been like,
he's definitely making a joke that's a bit risque for office. I like my first cycle into it's like I was saying like seeing if someone's racist, like hey, well. Hey, what do you think of that, boy? Like, if someone like that's like, oh, you're one of us. You think that's funny? You know, it's like that type of joke. Like, is everyone here just like homophobic? And then they're trying to determine whether I'm homophobic too, so it's okay to make homophobic jokes? Because it's like, it was very strange.
Well, I can say he'd like the podcast, maybe.
He knows I have a podcast too, because when we do you do the Zoom, like the Google Meetups, whatever, the video thing. They my work email has 2-factor authentication, so it's a bitch to constantly like go to my phone and like type in a code every time I want to look at my work email. Mm-hmm. So when I first go on these Google Meetups, it's always my BenBen. It's always like a DWA email or something, and they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Oh my god, they could just go to Google and look this shit up right now." Oh my, I'm an idiot. I sometimes forget. I'm like, it's like what's DWA? I'm like, I'm not familiar with that initialism, sir. It's probably just a glitch.
That is not my nomenclature.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. I think he probably has looked it up because he's made jokes about it a few times. He's like, oh, he does the funnies and stuff like that. I'm like, oh man.
I think this guy is maybe trying to just like hit on you a little bit too.
No. I think he wants the company to sell for lots of money so that he can retire, and he's counting on me for my expertise in terms of marketing and aesthetics. Yeah. So I don't think he cares about also his son's been on the call. So he's hitting on me with his son next to him on the call.
Yeah, I think people would hit on some guys aggressively hit on people.
So you have a gay dad, and your gay dad's going to be hitting on your colleagues because you work for the company too.
I think guys
on a Zoom call. Yeah, your fucking mind. What's insane?
I don't know. Men, I think men, whether straight or gay, can sometimes lose sight of what's going on if they really want somebody.
I think that's funny and everything, but if that's true and that's really what's going on, I don't even care. But part of me is like, that is kind of super risky and unprofessional. It's like, because like I could be one of those weirdos that just sues everybody. You know? Like, I could just be like, I can't work at a place like, like, you want to sell this company because it's a tech company and they're in like a certain industry, and it's about as far as I can say. I shouldn't even said that because now I just have basically said nothing. But like the whole point is to flip out, like M&A, sell to someone else and don't even go public, which makes me question my whole stock option plan because they're inherently worth a lot less. But whatever. It makes me just like, dude, like, whatever. The funny thing is, he is sick. They've actually brought me on because the CEO is sick, and he has like
terminally ill.
He's sick, and so like they need more like people that have like ideas and like can take on some of the more like rigorous work, and so it's funny. It's funny if that
is it. How do you go from he's sick?
Well, if you're gonna die, it would be funny if you're terminally ill to just like go gay in front of your son on Zoom calls with fellow employees. That if you're gonna go, just go. Like, you know what I mean? Like, go big, be yourself,
guns blazing,
be yourself. Yeah. It is weird the monkeypox thing. Like you're telling me that guys. First of all, like. I don't understand like how they say that like the WHO and CNBC also report on this. That's like the money channel. They like talked about like, by the way, stocks, bonds, and also gay sex at raves with bisexual and gay men. How do you go from getting a dick up your ass at a concert to then thinking about pussy? I can't make that transition. That whole like bisexual thing in real time, the real time switch, like left brain to right brain, 180 in real time. That part, philosophically, I can understand bisexual. I can't understand it in practice.
See, for women.
Oh, what is that? Oh, that felt good. Hey, Sarah, do you want to like go over here and get a drink? I just don't see that. Like, I just don't see this transition.
I honestly think that for women, I understand it more. Like, we get tired of men and we're like, all right, that's enough for now. Like, I'm done with this. I'm going to switch to pussy for a little bit. I have oftentimes thought that in my life. Like, I've had it with everybody. I think I'm going to switch. And then I never do. So it's just like, I'm like, but my dream of becoming a power lesbian at some point, you know, I mean, I could see it. I could see it happening, but it's for men though. And I don't know how to say this very well, but I do think.
I don't think lesbianism is like very. I think real lesbianism might be more rare than transsexuals. Like I think that it is. Women are more gender fluid, sexually fluid than men, but they are not like real lesbians. Not because I'm so ugly I have to be lesbian, or no, I'm such a bitch I have to be lesbian, or it's a good idea if I marry this woman who has a talk show because she's rich and that's a good move for me. That type of thing.
Well, so the thing about men being I never.
There's a lot of gay men that actually share this term, this sense. Like a lot of gay men think lesbians are fake.
Guys who are like, oh yeah, I'm like both. I'm so open, and I'm like, like
perineums and assholes are getting more narrow. I could see that maybe be the reason. Joe Rogan says that men's perineums, but the space between the asshole and the balls is getting
perennial. I was like,
I am saying it right. I am pronouncing it right. Perineum. That's how I say it. I know people say it slightly differently. Perineum, pericone.
I should bother the doctor.
Pericone MD.
We should bring in the doctor once in a while on the podcast just so he can correct.
What is it called? A parendectomy?
We'll
when women have birth, they have to like cut it because they have more space because the vagina is just so small. It's not big enough for the crown.
Speaking of which, I went to see Men last night, the movie Men, and I went with one of my friends who likes fucked up movies like I do. But can I spoil it a little bit? It wasn't great. It was sort of like Mother, actually, if you've seen Mother with J-Law. But at the end of the movie, there's a birthing scene, and it's a bunch of men just giving birth to all these different versions of like these characters and this like demon thing that has been haunting her. And then at the end, it's her ex-husband who committed suicide and/or fell, who's like the final form.
Without much
and
context
I watched
giving this, it sounds so random.
I know but I went to this movie with one of my Middle Eastern friends, and I laughed so hard at his reaction. He was like, "Oh my God, this is disgusting." They like made the entire movie worth it to me. I was laughing in the theater so hard just at that, like, this
whatever the elites are putting in the water, it does seem to be working. Never mind like asshole space between balls and asshole getting narrower, implying more estrogen and less testosterone in utero, or plastics, whatever, BPA. But like men just being bitches more now. Yeah. Like more men are just like more effeminate. More men are less like. I see also more like, like hard work is like abusive. Like mental health days, like our favorite athletes turning into women. Right. I mean, like it's like there's something strange going on that I have to say has more to do with not random societal progression towards like gender fluidity and being a better person, but like there's something in the water, and powerful people know that these other traits that are more masculine are not good to promote in the general populace because it's harder to control.
Yeah.
And so I reading the James Burnham book, The Machiavellians, at the behest of the ladies from the Red Scare podcast, is it's very eye-opening in terms of just a view of dynamics of power and how like politics come and go, but the elite ruling classes also come and go.
Yeah.
Different, but like they are the ones behind the scenes always.
Yeah.
And
well,
it's I've told people this for years. I've said it on the podcast for years, but there is a lot of what's happened in progressive politics and like in terms of like gender and gay rights has been a subversion of these political campaigns and sociological campaigns for progress and rights for the sake of actually culling future generations from doing anything.
Yeah.
Giving people some like synthesizing revolutions in the Saul Alinsky sense for the sake of controlling revolution, controlling the Fronde from actually happening, the peasant uprising in France, to actually give people a sense of power so that they shut up and they do as they're told. Creating pundits where, yes, if you talk about racism 24/7 24 hours a day and keep promoting like the wage gap, we will give you $1 million a year salary. And it's not just because it's good clickbait and negative affectation is better fodder for social media in terms of like revenue, click-through rates in advertising. But it's because there's a parallel symposium of, if we can keep them divided, dumb, like me this past week looking at the Amber Heard trial every single day, just watch it like, oh my god, like if we can get them on the from milking them on the teat, they'll never be able to come up and overthrow us.
Yeah.
And like if we can just tell them like keep promoting being rich is evil and the wealth disparity, and then also the universal minimum wage that's coming. Let's get them all doped up on free money. It's over for them, and there's not going to be anyone. Fewer Elon Musks or really innovative people to contend with that don't come from our flock that can't be bought and controlled.
I think
sucks, man.
Yeah.
For most people, like they don't either are too tired to see it, give up, and like they might be smart enough and capable and have the testosterone and the ability, but like they're just like, God, you can't beat the system. It's overbearing. The amount of like, and really the goal is not to beat it; it's to join.
Yeah,
it's to make yourself worthy of them anointing you as one of the elite. There's no changing the system.
This whole, me really wanting to be, or being, I should say, being an artist in any way, it's very daunting to have these talks with you because it feels very bleak for me, like all around, because it just so happens that everything that I find the most love and joy out of in this life does not pay for shit, like even helping people, just pauper helping people, which is really sad.
Well, yeah, like no good deed goes unpunished. That's been a parable for a billion years. But yeah.
Well, I think honestly, like, I don't know if I brought this up with you the other day, but I think something recurring with me lately, and that I have found that I like to surround myself with, where there's a quote that ties along with it, but I like people who came from absolutely nothing. Like my friend who I went out with last night, like grew up running generators, grew up in Iraq, very, very poor, did not think he'd find himself out of that, but taught himself English by walking to a library and reading a book and learning a new word every day when he was younger, and like became a translator in that time. But like grew up so without, and then made it all the way over here, and now he's in IT, he's graduated like without anything. And I think
he'll be installing my cable in no time.
No, he's in cybersecurity, which I wonder, I told him that I was a part of I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I'm like, I hope he didn't he could easily find out everything about me. I think he's a part of like Facebook, maybe not Facebook yet, but he's definitely. But anyway, I'm going to stray from that. But I just find that the people that I admire the most really didn't have like, and so it goes for a lot of other people, like, but I don't know why I do that. I'm hoping maybe it'll rub off on me a little bit, or like it's like
There's a great
surrounding
part
yourself
of
with
the
strength.
book that says most fortunes are made through a combination of taking by force, specifically it says force, and fraud. A combination of the two. Not like stealing from people necessarily, but like an exhibitionism, selling the product, like marketing yourself, putting yourself in position. And one of the things I find most interesting about my psychosis of narcissism inherited by my father and my mother's borderline, I don't know what gift she gave me other than, I don't know, a general disposition towards not caring about anything, and somehow a unique ability to make women laugh and become enamored by me because I see it through a BPD art hose eyes. I don't know.
You would be like, you're a woman's man. Men have to be a certain type to really, but women really like you.
But the point I'm making is my father's narcissism, and this maybe that might be true than the women, but for men to like you, and that's what really matters. No offense, ladies, and Kathy Wood and Fortune 500 people and women that are lawyers, doctors, and doing well. Narcissists have a hard time selling to other men. There's a competition or a sense of elitism or a what you read when you read this, The Machiavellians by James Burnham. One of the things you do realize is that the elite need the classes to sell to. They need everyone else to buy the Kool-Aid. That's what makes the money. There's only so many elite. They don't sell amongst themselves. They do, like art and stuff like that. But for the most part, most of the money is consolidated amongst selling to us, right? So kind of like the idea of like rap music. Oh, that's, this is a cultural, thing, and it's part of black culture and blah, 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 blah. I'm like, it's really not. It's been cultivated by gay Jewish record executives to sell to 30% of white middle-class America. It's not about preserving the integrity of the music. It's selling it to the biggest group of people that buy it. The biggest group of people that buy rap music are white people.
Yeah, well, people have been artists have been led on to that for a little bit now, and have been trying to run their own shit.
But let me go back to my point real quick. I just want to make this point. My father has failed in life he's a very successful investment banker, but he's failed in allowing his narcissism to make his ability to sell, to make himself sellable. It's hurt him because he thinks he's better than. He's had a very hard time humbling himself and being self-deprecating for others. That is one of that's the kryptonite of narcissism. Hyper-focused, hate yourself, keep pushing yourself. It's never good enough. You have to keep working, keep fighting. Brilliant ideas nonstop, by bipolar, like random thoughts of brilliance, and like you can see them through. But then there's this like lack of humanity that's part of this coldness of like practicality that has to be. You have to be. You can have it and be afflicted by it because it's part of the brilliance of narcissism that people don't talk about. But you have to turn it off or flip it to the side and pretend. You have to have the vision to see that there's a part of you that is not attractive to other people, that you have to appease those people and give to the selling. The private equity funds, the hedge fund managers that are able to take money from one rich person and put it in their own pocket. Well, that's that customer service my father doesn't have, and a lot of narcissists don't. And they actually underachieve because of it.
I think, that's interesting, but it reminds me of, because I think there was one or two moments where I can see your definite flagrant narcissism, and I told you, don't you want to be somebody who people want to see win and succeed? And I think you told me, I don't give a fuck. And then I was like, but that reminds me of that. I'm pretty sure that was your response at the time. But then you sort of think about it and you come back to me like later with something that's like, oh, well, you elaborate. But in the moment, you're like blazing and I can't like break through where I'm like,
I think that you have to be a little bit more specific. Some people, it doesn't matter what they think.
I think
you shouldn't care what people think in general.
Don't
except for
have that. Yeah, you shouldn't really care, but you also
except
I
for
think
the people with money that you want to take.
I think just as a general practice, you just want to be the type of person.
Peter Thiel, investor for
like
our show. Thank you.
Where people just are like, oh, I'm so happy they made it because they're so, like. That maybe is a better twist to the story than just like I climbed this mountain of.
I think you're conflating the idea of making it as like a pop singer from being a poor lounge person versus like being in business.
No, I really think business should operate maybe the same way, and I think people who do come out,
you treat people nicely.
People,
you're not, but in essence, you still have to be a monster in a way to get there. Yeah. You have to be like a ruthless son of a bitch, not like evil, like everyone else. I've said this before, like your mom's best friends in the neighborhood, invite you over to play. But if it came to one spot at Harvard and one of them wants, there's one spot to get in for admissions, that mother wants their kid going over you, even though she invites you over to play. You ever go to the bathroom?
I do. I'm sorry. I've drank a lot of coffee and water.
Speaking of gay, you're talking about the monkeypox, gay sex. You know what else is gay?
What?
Top Gun.
There's
super
that
gay
ad for it lately where it's him on the bike and stuff, and all I can think is Tom Cruise is so gay.
I'm playing with the boys. Come on. I'm riding, just playing with the boys. Even the name, like Kenny Loggins, sounds like some gay, like, I don't know, like laying pipe. Like, or some like gay like tool
working
like
9 to 5
handlebar mustache.
Pipe.
Oh, just I'm playing with the boys. Yeah, that volleyball scene. But yeah, Maverick. I do want to see that movie. I hear it's really really good, and I have a suspicion that Tom Cruise dies in it. I'm just saying. I just have a suspicion, and that his old wingman Goose, who's played by Goose's son, played by Miles Teller from Whiplash and War Dogs, a very, very talented actor who actually has scars on his face from a car accident, which I think is interesting, gives him character. But good-looking kid. He plays Goose's son in the new movie, and he has a mustache just like Goose, like 80s mustache. And I'm like, did you like develop a mustache because you have your dead dad? That seems to be a weird psychosis. Like if in real life, like if Pete Davidson like acts like his dad because his dad died on 9/11, this is just what his dad was like. Like his dad is a fucking asshole, Pete Davidson.
I think that's actually a real thing. I think mimicking either someone's behavior or if it just to keep them alive, it's preservation.
I agree with you. I've done that. I agree with you. But still, the mustache is particularly like, and it's like, speaking of my boss and the gay sex thing you alluded to and hitting on me on a Zoom call or something like that, what if, because of how gay Top Gun is in general, that Tom Cruise ends up dating Goose's son in the new Maverick? Because that would be some weird shit. And like that's the circle. It's not like I'm going to save you when you're sick and kill myself in the clouds, which I think is what actually happens because your dad died. I blame myself my entire life. And that's why I'm a loose cannon. But he was always loose cannon, so it doesn't really follow the script. But so like, what if the new movie, the circle of life is him having gay sex with Goose's son. And that's the end of the movie. You
And
find
then
out they're dating.
and then Kevin Spacey is like jerking off in a closet.
Yeah,
and it just
that too.
zooms in on Kevin.
Yeah.
All the way
You
to
said
his
that Kevin
seedy
Spacey got
little
new
eyes.
charges. Dude, like,
Yeah.
that dude at the Tennis Academy in D.C., the JTCC where Francis Tiafoe played, he was at like a celebrity thing and was hitting on everyone. My friend who went to AFI, same shit. Like, would like chased my friend who looks like an Abercrombie model down the street in New York. Like, hey, named Andrew. Hey, Andrew. I'm like he's like, dude, Kevin Spacey is catcalling me. Imagine a guy just like chasing a woman down and saying, hey, Sasha, Natasha. Like, how would you get away with that? But if you're gay, it doesn't. It's
what
okay.
I'm saying. This was my point from before. There's some aggressive sort of like, and I think it's like maybe more so if it's man on man, because like the testosterone.
It just
so
looks like you're best friends. Society doesn't view it the same because they don't see like it's not. You're not being like. No one sees it that way. Like it just seems like it's hey John, hey come, hey John, and you're chasing John down the street. Really, you're trying to rape John.
I think
and
Kevin
like,
Spacey has to have like some. I want to know like the full what's happened to him, because I'm sure something
he's
happened.
super successful, rich and gay. So it's like
no, I think that there's some like history of like some sort of abuse, and he's like
I don't
maybe
know that
he just
I don't know
likes
that he's
little
actually
twinks.
really done. I think he's an aggressively like the story from the 1980s about the kid at the party. There's very odd things going on there. So Kevin Spacey's at a party with a 14-year-old. They are with no other kids are there, just this 14-year-old. His parents invite him, let him go to a party on his own. Fine. But then at the end of the party, at this apartment that's neither the kids nor Kevin's, they're the only people left at the house.
Yeah,
and like that, it doesn't flow
that's a little
right.
like parents leaving their kids to like sleep over at Michael Jackson,
or maybe like a stage mother. Like if I let Kevin Spacey fuck my kid, then he'll get to be, I don't know, in Lawrence of Arabia,
the creepiest
on stage at the Warner next month. I don't know, like I whatever.
You know, it was a brilliant movie. Like when I started to feel sick, I reach out to comfort movies sometimes. When this all started to happen, I watched Little Miss Sunshine.
House Guest with Sinbad.
No, I watched Little Miss Sunshine, and it's such a great movie to show how fucking
very depressing
creepy
movie.
And terrible.
That's your uplifting movie?
That's a great movie.
It's about stage mothers, gay failure, and suicide. That's your uplifting movie?
The point in the end is that they all come together, and it's like a happy ending. If you watched it in its entirety, like, you're looking at me.
Is the John Benet Ramsey story an uplifting story for you too?
What I'm saying is it's such a good, that was maybe the first movie I'd ever seen that really exposed how weird and creepy and weird, like the announcer guy who calls up the little girls on stage and is really like, I was like, that's hilarious, because that's exactly what you would see is like, hello, and now coming up.
There is nothing hilarious, in my opinion, about some of that shit in real life. That is some weird, creepy shit.
Stop trying to make me.
Especially when dads do it. Like the dads are part of it.
Yeah.
Like their like 10-year-old daughter, like sexualizing them like they're Ariana Grande, but 10 years younger.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on?
No, but that movie's because her thing was like
I would have been on the football team, but now I have to live through my daughter's ballerina recitals when she's 9.
Yeah.
For $5 prize in Lincoln, Nebraska. This weekend, we drove 100 miles. Oh my God, man.
I know. The whole point of that movie was to expose it, but also to like do it in this because throughout it, the main character, the little girl, who's just real. She's just real.
Yeah, we get the movie. It's still a very depressing movie.
Just not depressing. The ending is
all
great.
The peripheral characters are incredibly flawed and depressing people, and
but they all have each other. Andrew.
Kevin Spacey was about to do his what's his name, the Frank Underwood thing he's done since he's been charged like a few years ago. Like he did the Thanksgiving thing. He's cutting the turkey. It's like, I know what you want. You know, like he only wants Frank Underwood back 'cause he was written off the show House of Cards. And then this past Christmas, I think, maybe 2021, he was about to do it again at a park, but it was an I don't know what you'd say, anti-suicide or pro-life, whatever. It's just like you're talking about how like rough times in life, like how like you think there's not a path for you, but there is a path. Just keep going. And he started with the Frank Underwood thing, and he went to like this like, you know, suicide, like don't do it. It's not don't make that choice. It was positive for him to say that. Mm-hmm. He once had a drink spilled on him by a friend of mine at a party in New York, and Kevin just stared at him and then walked off. And 10 years later,
is this the same year Abercrombie?
No, not him. 10 years later, my friend's also at a party. Kevin Spacey's there. And my friend walks up to Kevin Spacey. He's like, Mr. Spacey, I don't know if you remember me or not, but about 10 years ago, I spilled a drink on you at this exact party. The same, like it's an annual party. And then Kevin looked at him. It's like, oh yeah, I remember you. And then walked away. And I was like, that's the best fucking story, man.
Because he's narcissistic.
He did it like his dramatic self. Like, oh yeah, I remember you, and then walked away. Like that weird like way he does with words. It's very subtle. I haven't practiced my Kevin Spacey, but fucking hilarious, man. Oh my god.
He's turning out to be the Woody Allen of the gay world.
Woody Allen's innocent. What are you talking about? Woody Allen's innocent. You don't fucking rape a child in an attic once in your 60s with no accusations your entire life.
He's incredibly weird, and I'm sure he's done some weird things.
He's
I'm
done
not
a weird
sure
thing
about
as in
that
he
story.
married his adopted daughter. That's weird. But
yeah,
he's not. She was of age and an adult when they started having sex. That's the only
You act like this is so certain and factual.
No, I read books on that shit. That's like my JFK. My mom was on the JFK assassination committee. She was. And she has all these books. And when my mom died, I went through some of her stuff. Books on top of books of JFK assassination shit. And then I got into Woody Allen. And I was like, this is a very odd story. Especially because of like the Sunni thing, that's weird. But no, Mia Farrow's a psycho. And for you to sit here right now on this podcast and talk shit as if Woody Allen's clearly guilty, you are out of your fucking mind.
I'm just saying, if somebody doesn't think that like some breadcrumb of truth, even if it like
is
I don't
believe Hood a bit abused, like healthy, balanced person in your eyes too. Jesus. By the way, there was a video online this week that shows Amber Heard taking notes diligently. You might have seen some of the trial. I've been watching it like every day.
This is like
she takes notes and gives post-it notes back to her lawyers in the second row over and over again, like hour on end, like as if she's like diligently part of it. And in a video that's surfaced, it shows that her pen is not touching the pad. She's writing in the air, and the lawyer to her right, staring down at what she's writing, realizes that she's pretending to write, shakes his head, mutters to himself, before she then takes another post-it note, smiles, and returns it to the back row of lawyers behind her, which might also be empty and say absolutely nothing. Like it's a whole show. Like she's like a, what do you call it? Like the background or something. Like she's an extra, and so she's just miming shit. You know how people like friends at the Central Perk Cafe are just talking, having conversations in the back while Ross and Rachel are getting up into their shenanigans, and you're just like, I wonder what they're actually talking about. I think maybe they're talking about like fucking in the back room. Like, would it be cool if you like went back to the kitchen that's not really real, it's just backstage, and started fucking like wild pigs while they're filming this episode of Friends? That'd be kind of cool. What do you think? I'm gonna take a sip of this fake coffee. Yeah, you do that. Hey, your mother's a little dirty little slut. Can I call you by your mother's name? And like that's what they're talking about in the back rows, and you don't know. It's the Amber Heard's just like pretending.
You know what it reminds me of is The Big Lebowski, where he gets that and he like sketches out, and all that it is like after he like grazes his pencil over the top is like, is it a dick? But when you told me that, I was like, that's kind of funny. It's
I like Dennis
this.
Reynolds from Always Sunny. What are you writing? Writing? No, not writing. Drawing conclusions.
Charlie.
And then he shows the psychiatrist this picture of the psychiatrist with giant tits, with Dennis wrapping his arms around her and squeezing them. He's like, "What do you think? I was quite generous." And it's like
it's really
I love Dennis Reynolds so much. Chariot of the Guy, I have the Range Rover. I get the whole thing. I'm him. Yeah, like there is something. What were we talking about? Talking about Kevin Spacey. Talking about Amber Heard. Yeah, it's at the jury, so that is interesting. I do. Amber Heard requested part of her her jury thing with the judges. The names of the jurors are going to be blocked, protected for a year after the trial, which sounds like a crazy thing a psycho bitch would say. It's like, oh, I just want to, once I win, I don't want anyone to think, find out that I've actually planted jurors in my favor or something. It would be hilarious if she not only does Johnny Depp not prevail, and his standard is tough in terms of libel, but and also the damages that she actually incurred. His losses were not related to his, Transcendence was not a very good movie.
Mm-hmm.
He had some shitty movies recently before Amber Heard, but he's been mailing them in for some time. Could be her fault. Could be her. He just became he thought he loved this woman, realized she's a batshit crazy person, and then he stopped caring about acting. It's entirely possible. They didn't make that claim, but it's possible. Anyway,
I think all things are possible in this trial.
I don't think he's. He might have slapped her once or something like that, but I don't. I really think she's a psycho bitch. She's a psycho.
Man, I want to watch Men with you. There's, sorry, things are reminding. It's fresh on my mind.
I really
today.
don't want to watch something that's disparaging men. Men today.
No, because so she keeps going through these levels of I
don't know
her
what you're
husband
talking
commits
about.
suicide.
And now you've already told me the movie, and now you want me to see it. So it's like, why?
Because I would like to see.
Spoiler alert! You're gonna have a shitty time watching this movie because I already told you what it's about. Spoiler alert! Oops. Talk about fugitive Caitlin Armstrong. You know more about that than I do.
Who?
Oh my God! The cyclist, the love triangle.
Oh. Yes, this was an exciting story, but there's been a lot going on in Texas recently that it's
What's going on in Texas?
Well, Abbott and the formula would be one thing. Abbott in general, and the shooting of Uvalde.
What shooting?
The school shooting? You didn't hear about that? Oh my God.
What's the difference?
It was a big...
Make your choice.
It's horrible. Oh, I don't really want to talk about that. It's
abortion
horrible.
Or kids at a school.
I know. It's this is
I'm kidding. I was making a bad joke.
Place.
Bad joke. My friend and I were fighting last night about abortion. He thinks abortion should be anytime, all the time. I showed him a 7-month-old fetus in utero. He's like, I don't care. It's not born yet. It's very dark. Very dark.
Which one of the grad boys is this?
This is Daniel.
Oh.
Daniel's very liberal, and I'm like,
I like Daniel. I like him a little bit more now.
Yeah, I don't like. If you've seen a baby at 7 months and see how it's developed, it's very fucked up to just. You don't flush that out. They
You're like that scene in Juno where she runs out of the clinic and she's like, it has fingernails.
Yeah, I think people fail to understand that
This is maybe what saves you ultimately from your narcissism is you have this very sweet.
I'm pro-choice, sort of,
toward innocent, like animals.
But I'm probably more
and
pro-life
babies.
with qualifications. I'm objectively probably pro-life with I think abortions to a degree should be legal. That's probably where I am.
Yeah.
But not like you and not like Daniel.
That's because, Daniel's
gonna have a hard time when he's a politician. He's going into politics, trying to have the emotional connection to people that disagree with him. You know, it's like it's gonna be hard. You have to like pretend. It's gonna be hard.
Is it? Well, why does he have to?
Also, the gun control thing is very, very tough. There's already background checks and stuff like that, and then you have this dangerous precedent with the guns of like pre-existing mental health problems. And this, I go into this thing like, I've never committed a crime in my life, and I'm in therapy because my mother died from cancer. Does that mean during the therapy I'm not allowed to go get a gun? Is that what you're going to imply? Do my HIPAA laws no longer apply, and I have to register automatically, or my psychiatrist gets to usurp my protections and then file me into a registry where I am now under mental health treatment for something related to my mother's death, and because of that I should not be able to apply for a gun permit? Or what if I already have a gun permit and a gun that I have to, because I'm in therapy because of my mother's death from cancer, I have to turn into my guns to the ATF during that time? And at which point, at some point during that incident of like therapy, I have to go before a third-party tribunal and be evaluated by independent psychiatrists to determine that I'm over my mother's death, and then they give me my guns back. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm saying like forget like I've written notes to a psychiatrist 6 years ago where I thought about killing all my classmates. Nothing like that. Like I'm a guy who talks to his socks in his closet by himself as if they're hand puppets because his wife left him 3 years ago. Like I'm that guy. Like that's who I am. And I had to give up my guns because I'm still talking to my sock puppets and I'm in therapy for it. That's what I'm saying. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
When I was 17 and
Wait, can you comment on what I just said? Oh my God.
No, because I was building my own response in my head the entire time.
Wait. If there's a big growing movement of people talking about violating or protecting people with mental illness from owning a gun. My problem is that a lot of these circumstances, the person that they're talking about has never committed a crime. So their mental health shit is not like, they are not a second class.
Equal opportunity for all for this. But what I'm going to bring up is when I was 17 years old and I was getting my abortion, I had to go through a judge. I had to prove that I was mentally stable enough to do so, which is an argument that's been brought up with gun control lately, is like, are people going to have to go through basically the same amount of things to prove that they're mentally stable? I still got my abortion, whatever else.
Right, but you wouldn't have gone through that if you were 20. It was an age thing. It has nothing to do with like mental health in general for people with abortions.
No, I had to prove that I was mentally stable enough to do so.
No, at your age. It wouldn't have been if you were 25. True or false, Sarah?
It's true, but it could be backsliding a lot a bit lately.
No, see, you took something out of context to make a point. That was fucked up. That was manipulative. You were 17. That's why you went to court. Not because you were...
but to prove mental stability. Like, I think that
at 17, you do not have the ability to make the choice. What I'm saying is,
but at 18, you have the choice to buy an assault rifle.
No. Make it 21. Make it 22. The mental health part is a unifier. It means that at any point in time, if you've had mental health treatment in the past, that could disqualify you for owning a gun in the future. There's a lot of legislation about that. Like, you've never done anything wrong, but you were depressed from 29 to 36, and you were in therapy, intensive therapy. But this is all private. Your employer doesn't know this happened.
Yeah.
So who's going to know in the future if this were to be a law? How would they implement this at the federal level?
That is a bit scary. However, I do think that the age needs to be increased to only, I would say, like 25. You've been through enough life. You have in this country been on your own for a little while, are able to rent a car, whatever else. But I do not think anybody needs an assault rifle unless you are a military.
Do you know that most mass shootings happen with handguns?
Not the last two.
No. The majority of mass shootings in the United States are not at schools. The majority of shootings involving 5 or more people being killed by one assailant at one point in time is
Columbine, Sandy Hook, Uvalde.
No, see, you're confusing this. Every weekend in Chicago, in the south side of Chicago, people get shot and killed in drive-bys and things like this, gang-related shootings, violent black-on-black crime, black-on-white crime, whatever. that terminology, mass shooting, has been adopted to only imply schools. But the most shooting...
Buffalo was a grocery store. Still...
No. You're not the ones the news takes from the headlines to use for a certain specific reason. Like that was allegedly a racially motivated crime. I'm talking about the mass shootings that happen, the normal crime, violent crime in the United States with multiple victims from one assailant. Mm-hmm. Most of those are with handguns. And do you know the difference between a handgun, 99% of handguns, and an AR-15? Do you want to know?
Is it the ammo, the amount?
Not really. They're the same. They're both semi-automatic. Semi-automatic.
One of them you can hold a lot more ammo.
You could have an extended clip on a handgun. It just makes no difference. It's true. It's just true. See, there's of Sandy Hook. The guy had AR-15 assault rifles. He didn't use them. He used handguns. He had the assault rifles were in his truck.
Well, whatever. I don't think anybody who I do believe that it needs to be more rigorous.
Why ban ARs? Ban the handguns. Look at. Wait, let me finish. The amount of stabbings and acid attacks in England since the handguns have become the laws have were raised have grown exponentially. Do you want people to have acid thrown in their face? You'd rather be shot. I'd rather kids be shot because they're not necessarily permanently disfigured. It's a rough one.
I'm sure they'd rather be alive. I think.
Should we ban people from driving with mental illness? London Bridge attack with the truck.
I do not think that our world is meant to have. Nobody needs that much security or paranoia or anything, and that's like exactly what it breeds. But what's crazy to me is that all of these people recently were posting on social media all this crazy shit, and nobody intervened.
The FBI had stuff on a couple of these people. It didn't do anything.
Yeah, that's insane to me. Like that, the fact that like every single person, the guy from Milwaukee who you talked about,
the New York subway,
stopped to eat a Reuben. Like all of these people posted something
stopped
on.
To eat a Reuben.
He did. I was like
the black man in the New York subway that stopped to eat a Reuben. That's exactly what the press would say because they're like, oh, we can't talk about a black guy shooting white people. It's crazy. You just stopped and ate a Reuben. I'm just kidding.
But like all of them have done, especially recently, and I'm like, not even like a family member, not even like who. I mean, that's the thing is that like if somebody I knew was sitting there posting some wild ass shit, I would be like,
but then what?
An intervention time with a group of people, and I'm like,
you're right, but like the kid at the high school, which one was it? The one with the parents that were arrested. When was that? It was like a couple months ago. The ones whose parents were on the run. It was in Detroit, Michigan, or something.
Parents on the run.
The kid was in therapy for making specific comments like about shooting his classmates. The school was aware of it. It's a very weird case because it's like, how come? Because this goes to my point. He hasn't done anything yet. He said this shit. He's been suspended before, but like, what is the other thing other than you expel him and then he goes to another high school and shoots people? Like, it's like he's a ticking time bomb and he hasn't committed a crime. So if you extend the age for guns, I think that's punishing law-abiding citizens in a way, but I respect that. The question is...
the reason that I say to extend it as well is that I think...
So that there won't be school shootings because none of the kids will be old enough to get a gun in the first place.
Well, I think it ties along with this archaic sense of this archaic structure where they're 18, they can join a military, therefore the law has to be kept that they can buy a gun because it's a militant
The press
rule.
Is giving coverage to these stories that you're watching, but most of these shootings just happen all the time.
Also, kids shouldn't be sent off to war at 18. I think that the age for that has to increase. Like none of that should be going
There's no
through
conscription.
an 18-year-old.
There's no conscription.
mind. An 18-year-old.
Wait. Do you think kids are sent off to war?
What are you talking about? When you're 18, you can sign up for the military.
Yeah, you can sign up. You're not drafted. There's no draft.
If there were to be, I'm not saying there is a draft. I'm just saying it's crazy to me.
Do you know that there's not a draft anymore? You don't know.
A lot of these kids sign up. A lot of these yeah, I know that there's not a war right now, so therefore there wouldn't be. But a lot of these kids sign up. No,
Sarah. There is no draft period. There's no wars where there's no draft.
I'm aware. Why do you keep saying
no?
Like
if
that?
there was a war right now, there wouldn't be a draft.
Yeah, I know that did away after Vietnam. That was the last one. Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. I had to prove myself there. God, what I'm saying is it's crazy that 18-year-olds can make those sort of decisions. Also, buying a gun is a really big decision. I mean, you shouldn't. I just don't think it's necessary. You
wouldn't want the school shooters killing our bad guys instead of their classmates? I think you send them off to Iraq. Go for it, or the next place we go that has oil. I mean, what do you mean?
No, I don't agree with that at all. I think because your brain isn't fully developed into actually realizing
you're not fully developed. Your brain's not fully developed until you're 25. Yeah. Late adolescence.
So 25, I think, is a fair age to say, okay, your brain is developed and realizes a sense of self. That's the development there.
Do you know whose brain also isn't developed before 25?
Who?
Fetuses.
Stop. I think the little shit-eating grin right now is
just saying. No,
I do not think that we should be so quick and
one of the things that you're doing is you're pushing off the mass shooters from the likelihood of a kid at 25 going to a school to shoot people. Less likely. Public schools with security and so on and so forth, less likely. But you don't stop the mass shootings that aren't reported, which is the crime sprees. That's the problem, that they're not you don't care as much. Poor people killing poor people, it just no one gives a shit. But those are the majority of mass shootings. So you're taking a small section. These are small subsets of mass shooting statistics, and you're seeing the ones that news sells to you because it's far more appealing for their advertisers and their click-through rates. That's what's disgusting, is you're being manipulated into, if we push back, if we get rid of the semi-automatic handguns or semi-automatic rifles, pick or choose, and we make the age for guns 25, all these school shootings won't happen anymore.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
You might be right. You might be right, though. But it doesn't. The majority of mass shootings are not school shootings. 99.999% of them. And it's the fact that is true, and that you're not aware of that, is because the news is fucking
it doesn't matter where it is. It's horrible that it's at school, but any mass shootings. I'm
but
not
they're getting, most of these people are getting guns illegally, or they have the felonies with guns, and the reason is because the United States has not outright banned guns. And
did you see
it might be for the best, quite frankly. I don't think it's a good idea to. We've seen terrorist attacks in recent years in areas with higher rates of gun laws, knives, acid, cars, subway bombings. Alternative methods are used when the actual import-export is more difficult of these particular items. If people can kill people with motor vehicles anytime they want, it's far easier in this country to get a driver's license than it is to get a gun. It is. Mm-hmm. Should we ban driving? The actual responsibility of the individual is deeply flawed in this case of just changing the law for the sake of the crazy.
No, I just think we need to start not offering these things to people who, like I said, their brains aren't developed enough. 18 is not.
What about drinking?
Adult.
Should we push drinking to 25?
I mean, I don't really give a fuck, to be honest. I don't really drink.
But it's the same idea. You drink, you drive your friend, and then you get in a car accident because you just made a stupid choice, right? And then that friend's paralyzed, or he's Crawford, Morgan Crawthorn, or Cathorn, or whatever.
He's
having like weird orgies with like
alcohol does nothing. We just talked about alcohol being terrible for you, but I think what should be and what's coming on the rise is like psilocybin and mushrooms maybe should be more of an incorporated treatment for people with depression. I don't know how I got on that. I veered way far away.
The point I'm making is that alcohol at 21 can make you do stupid things. Underage drinking can make you do stupid things.
Right. So raise that too. Like, why not?
But most people don't commit drunk driving. Most people drink responsibly.
Are you kidding me? Like, kids going to school drink responsibly? That's like...
No, most kids...
I don't care.
Most kids do not...
I would be the type of mom who'd be like, I don't give a fuck about your experience. This is what you're doing. My kids wouldn't have a tablet, phone, fuck it all. I would be so... regimented and hard and tiger mom on my kids. And archaic, like candlelight reading. I would. My kids would be so weird.
No, but you're saying most kids drink. Most kids do not kill their friends in drunk driving accidents.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Well, there wouldn't be any kids if they all did. They'd all die. That's the point I'm making.
Let's pull up some statistics because I don't
It's very
buy
simple.
that
What
one.
I said. It's very simple. Pay attention. Most kids don't kill their friends in drunk driving accidents.
Where are you getting things?
As if they did, we'd hear about it, and that most kids today would be dying at an alarming rate in drunk driving accidents. That's what I'm saying. Listen to what I'm saying. Most kids that are under 21 are not killing their friends while driving drunk. Because
what is the gap there from how many years do they have to drive drunk?
Now,
I would be interested to
since
see
they were born. But before once they got out of the abortion.
Okay, so from 21 to 25, then what is that statistic? What's the difference? I'm sure a lot more.
All right, wait, what?
So my own cousin was, how old was she? 20, and she got into an accident drunk driving, and she was paralyzed. She still is. The
majority of kids that have the ability to drive and drink do not kill their friends.
Well, I just don't understand where you're getting this. Like, is this just from
Are you okay? So if there are 10 kids in the world at any one point in time between the ages of in the United States, the ages of 16, the legal driving permit age, and 21, between those ages, there's 10 kids between those ages that have a driver's license and can drink underage, and they're under 21. Between the age of 16 and 21, there's 10 people in the United States. 6 of them, according to you, kill their friends while drinking and driving.
I'm not saying killing is enough. I'm just saying like there's other things that are horrible.
All of it. Paralyzed, mental, drunk driving accidents where people are severely injured. Throw all that in there. 6 out of 10 do that. That's what you're saying.
What are you saying? Like, what's your
the majority? The basic statistics: more than 50% of kids who have the ability to drive and are under 21 do not kill their friends or paralyze them in drunk driving accidents. Are you insane?
I'm going to look this up, Andrew, because I just feel like you really came at me with that one pretty ferociously without having an actual statistic to tell me.
The statistic is a negative. You're implying there's a statistic that says the majority of kids that have the ability to drive kill their friends in drunk driving accidents or severely impair them with damages from an accident?
We'll see. I'm looking it up.
So most
right
kids
now.
would never even get to college
Statistic
because
of
they'd be in
underage
jail
driving.
or juvenile hall. I don't know how else can I do this. There's 100 kids in the entire United States between the ages of 16 and 21 right now, and you're saying more than 50 of them kill their friends.
How many injuries are caused by underage drinking? Each year, approximately 5,000 young people under the age of 21 die as a result of underage drinking.
That's nothing.
This includes about 1,900 deaths from motor vehicle crashes, 1,600 as a result of homicides, 300 from suicide.
I think the total car accidents in the United States last year were 223,000. Right? 223 deaths and all that. So, yeah, you're completely off.
What is your point in these horrible fucking
The point I'm making is that most kids do not commit crimes and hurt other people by their drinking. Most people with guns do not shoot their classmates.
So when you're a kid, you should just be afforded all of these freedoms.
No, most people with guns do not shoot their classmates. Most people drive responsibly. So the point I'm making is that and most people drink responsibly. If you set a precedent to where the small portion, and I mean the mass shooting, incredibly small at schools, it is such a small subset of total mass shootings, it's almost negligible. If you make that the precedent to overturning constitutional law, that's like saying you really should, there should be 7 genders. There should be, if your kid says that they're a woman, they should be taken out of your home instantly and converted. That's the type of thing. It's such a small subset.
You don't want an extreme reaction to this, but however, I think
you can just say however.
This time, there's got to be one for guns. I don't think that's just where I stand.
I think you're being manipulated by a false equivalency.
I think it must be my womanly nurturing. I mean,
no, it is very manipulative to have a precedent where you have 7 black guys died last weekend that are 19 years old by another black gunman, and you don't give a fuck. Really, you could care less, and the news doesn't.
I'm not saying that. I care about all of it.
No, it's less interesting to you because the news didn't care because they don't have a story on it. But they have one when 11 kids die because it pulls at your heartstrings. That's manipulative. That's what I'm saying. And you think that all mass shootings... Remember when we first started this conversation? You said that mass shootings were school shootings. You didn't even understand that there was even the actual...
No, I didn't. And I said that one of the most recent ones, it was at a grocery store.
No. The ones... Sorry. The ones on the news involving a lone gunman and stuff like that, that's what you assume to be the mass shootings. Most mass shootings are like gang-related violence. That's actually true. These that you see on TV, they're pushed as if they're the movie of the week. They are a incredibly small subset. Of course,
the horrible atrocities of this world are going to be pushed for the news. I mean,
no,
that's just...
they're not the most horrible. They're the most manipulative. They're the ones that sell. That's what I'm saying. There are 20 black kids that just died in Chicago this past weekend from one shooter, and you don't know about it because the news doesn't think that you'd care. A, that's racist. B, that's fucked up. But C, they're selling you on one particular type of mass shooting.
Right. I get it.
Okay.
They're
and you know what the guy used to shoot the 20 black kids this past weekend? A fucking Glock, a handgun. Semi-automatic, the same as an AR-15.
Well, it's all terrible, and I really think that there's got to be
not thinking. You're feeling. That's the point I'm making. You're feeling.
Yeah,
they're winning because they're working. It's working on you. I get it. I don't want anyone to die.
I think from all around it's working though. If I would have heard about either story any which way, I don't think guns are very necessary unless you're in certain realm, unless you're specifically
if you lived in this neighborhood by yourself and to walk home at night, you wouldn't be so bad to have a gun.
I wouldn't walk home at night. I'm fucking eliminate that one.
What if you wanted to?
If I wouldn't want to.
Right, but what if a woman did, not you?
take a fucking taser. What the fuck?
But
There's other ways. You don't specifically need a gun in this life. I feel like people who think that they do think it's like some like, you know, things are going to come crashing down and then I'm going to be the one with protection and a gun. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck yourself. It's so overly paranoid. I don't give a fuck about what people's freedoms are. That's how I feel. There's other ways to defend yourself in this life. Take a fucking martial arts class. You don't need an assault rifle. That's how I feel.
Or a handgun at all, ever.
No.
The guy that rapes your daughter in the middle of the night, your 5-year-old daughter.
Just stab the shit out of him.
Well, why? Well, why can't you? The point I'm saying is because of a school shooting that happened 6 years ago, the kid who sees an intruder in his house raping his 11-month-old daughter in the crib or something like that can't use a gun. That's what's so odd. And it's also odd that the amount of people that are saved by guns that aren't reported, you know, that actually save their family, save innocent people, that you don't get to see. And that is overwhelmingly in the other direction. The amount of people's lives who have been saved by guns. How about police officers that have saved people's lives with guns?
Yeah, I'm sure it goes both ways, and this is very devil's advocate. I just don't think that young kids need to be...
You're not thinking that you're feeling. Say you feel, because I think that would be better.
I don't feel.
Yes, you
or
feel.
Think
feel is. You don't feel or think.
I don't feel or think that it's necessary to put a gun into a kid's hand ever.
No, forget kids.
18.
People. You can't make a precedent as kids.
I've already told you you keep circling back to this like I'm going to change my mind or something. I mean, the age of 25 I think is a fair age because your brain is fully developed.
After 25 you're good. Everyone over 25 can have a gun.
Yeah, but I do think that there also needs to be some sort of intervention as to like I brought up before, people were posting videos before they went out to do all these horrible things. All of them.
Here's the problem with the second part that you're saying. If you're a law-abiding citizen, you would have to start to change laws to where you have a gun permit and you post something suspicious, or your neighbor tells on you that you're doing something suspicious, and then all of a sudden your rights are taken away. Until that's resolved by a third-party governmental tribunal, a law of which that's taken from you, stripped from you, that is given to you by the Constitution and is embedded in the Bill of Rights, but it's suspended because your neighbor thinks that the way you like to dance around naked and play the bongo drums is just not correct, and that you shouldn't have your guns until that behavior stops.
But I think it's a bit like extreme. Like you said, people drink responsibly. I'm sure people own guns responsibly.
No, what I'm saying is when people are under duress, or they're in positions where they have had their rights and they've had it for a long time, but they're in a position where they're exhibiting signs that they might have depression or that they hit their wife, but they're not guilty of anything, but that there should be a party or a tribunal or some people to...
Sure, why the fuck not?
But that's the thing. What I'm saying is, how do you implement that? But like that's what I'm saying. How do you actually make that a government body, or how do you make that a thing? That's what's so hard. Yeah. You make people tell on each other.
Who's going to be the judge, jury, and executioner? I get it.
And you make people guilty of things they actually haven't done, just that their behavior is erratic, or that the way that they talk about like their son that died from leukemia upsets them, so they shouldn't have their handguns anymore. That's a weird
I'm sure
precedent.
It would have to get very in depth about how we work these things. It'll have to be handled pretty delicately.
But then think about this. Every time you go to a psychiatrist, or who is the person that's going to give this information, and is it a person at the DMV that decides?
I have no.
Does your psychiatrist have to divulge private information? Then it's interesting, right? It's hard to implement this whole idea.
Well, if you really wanted a handgun, you'd just proceed anyway, right? If you really wanted a gun, you just go through the fucking motions. I don't really give a fuck about people's freedoms in this, right?
No, I'm saying is, Sarah, is that you are Sarah.
Yeah.
You don't have a gun. But then you start telling shit. You don't have a gun permit either. You tell your psychiatrist about this odd, gangly white guy that you hung out with for a certain period of time 3 or 4 years ago, and that he really did a number on your psyche, and it bothered you a lot, and you've been thinking a lot about it, and he's frightened you, And it bothers you. And when you think about it, think about this time. You get post-traumatic stress. You have post-traumatic stress symptoms. You have an adopted daughter at this time, or daughter, whatever. Because of this thing you tell them, she no longer views your doctor-client privilege. Mm-hmm. She feels that the what you're saying is a threat to the safety of your daughter. And because of that, because of the gun law that originally made this a thing, the psychiatrist, whenever they feel that someone might be at risk or exhibiting odd behavior and they feel another person could be harmed, they have the right to tell the authorities, and there's no longer any privilege. So Child Family Services at that point in time is notified by your doctor.
It's Child Protective Services.
No, Child and Family Services. There's versions of it. There's variant things. And CFS, CPS, there's different versions. And they take your daughter away. And then you have to go to a court to prove that you're fine, that like the tall, awkward, white, weird guy is not really a detriment or a threat to your daughter. These thoughts you just had and you share with your psychiatrist. Do you see what I'm saying? You take, the point I'm making is you take one thing about the guns and someone's private medical conversations with their doctor about like depression or like odd things, or maybe they like to stick like Tonka trucks up their ass and it makes them feel happy. Well, wait. Those things that are private, that have nothing to do with guns. I don't have a gun permit, but as soon as I start talking about how much I like to stick Tonka trucks up my ass, then I lose my ability to have my sons, to keep my son from becoming trans, because, or whatever, because my doctor says, you're crazy. I had to tell Child Family Services because of your Tonka truck thing. And it all stems not from guns. It stemmed from the gun legislation that happened 6 years ago.
What if let's say that happened with these past 3 people. Why does it take, these people went on social media to go. So you're going to say, I would be much more comfortable if a professional was to make that decision than somebody posting about it flagrantly all over social media. Nobody does a fucking thing. Not the FBI. So maybe psychiatrists should get that right. If our own FBI
right, but it doesn't end at the guns. It goes to other things. It means,
good.
But so you should have no privacy?
I don't think it's. I think that let's say that they just put somebody on a watch then, but like a serious watch, like where they're.
Who's watching? The implementation of your ideas is the trouble. Exactly.
Well, the FBI was apparently watching 2 of the shooters.
So you're going to give the government more power to like. So is there a special judge that comes in and says they're allowed to wiretap your house for an undisclosed period of time? Are you aware of this? How does that work? Where are the resources for such a wide scope? I don't know.
This is getting ridiculous.
I know it is. That's where it starts, though. The problem with your idea is, if I'm a criminal and I want to talk to my lawyer, why doesn't that gun legislation apply to attorney-client privilege then, to where everything I tell my lawyer can now be unlocked and it's no longer privileged and they can be used against me in the court of law? Do you see? It just doesn't stop with you take the point I'm making about gun law. A lot of people are concerned. There's a large, and we're going to end the conversation on this part about the guns. They're concerned that if you give up the rights for the guns, it doesn't end. Or if you add like. That's the danger. Every
extreme right that we have is like, well, if it, that's
I'm not right wing, and I'm worried about that.
Yeah. Well, you and every other. That's the thing, is that it's such an like, well, if they take this from us, and it's not taking anything. It's just about looking at it practically and like saying like, oh, maybe an 18-year-old shouldn't be able to do that. And it's like using common fucking sense and tweaking the rules a little bit. You're right. People drink responsibly. They own guns responsibly. You shouldn't have your privacy looked into. But if it's going to keep going this way, I would much rather join the opposing extreme than the one who's afraid of like.
This is where they pull on your heartstrings. It that you're talking about, it going this way, is just the framing of a small subset of mass shootings that make you feel really like emotional, and you're making decisions based off that. The majority of mass shootings do not involve schools or grocery stores, and you never hear about them, and that's what's sad.
Well, okay, it's all sad. The whole scope of it is very sad.
Talk about fugitive Caitlin Armstrong. I mean, I know you don't. We're not going to be able to get off.
I feel like I already have.
No, you haven't talked about her.
No, so I was so excited about this one because and it's so swept under. I haven't even followed up, I don't think. Because I have COVID too, and my COVID was like fog brain extreme. Like I was going to get, before I tested, which I think I got it from you, the previous podcast we had done. But before I tested positive, I went to Walgreens to get Andrew medicine for his COVID, and I lost my keys in my purse for like 2 hours.
That was like, fucking retarded. I had to tell you to look harder,
this
and
was
then you
like,
found
but
them.
I couldn't, like, it was the weirdest feeling, and I swear it was COVID because like I couldn't make
she
sense.
sat
And I was
in a Walgreens parking lot, called in sick called into work saying, I can't get there. I lost my keys.
I felt like it was like some weird transient like
she like
Groundhog's
sat on the curb
Day.
and just cried for hours.
No, I didn't. No, what I kept doing, because I'm like, did I check there? I kept forgetting where I had checked.
And if you worked at like
and
Goldman
I was
Sachs
like
or
totally,
something.
I felt like I had dementia, and I was like 80 because I kept like walking in and out of this Walgreens, and it's mid-afternoon in Texas, so I'm like sweating.
I
like,
pictured you just on the curb of Walgreens, turning your head cocked
No,
aside,
I was-
drooling.
because my key fob is like ridiculous. Like I called Toyota and I'm like, hey, I need it. Like, how much is it
You
for a
drove
replacement?
there. You locked your car.
But anyway,
And
so I'm
somehow
like,
you
how
lost your
much is
keys.
it for a replacement fob? And they're like $600. So of course I'm like, Jesus fucking
She's
Christ.
tall. She calls her dealership because she lost her keys. She drove to a Walgreens, had her keys with her, went in, bought shit, and then lost them somewhere in between. And she
Well, I was so out
was
of it is
calling
my
her-
whole point.
and I told her, look harder for your keys.
Yeah, very
the-
helpful.
no,
in
no,
a
I said,
panicked
look-
switch.
I said specifically. I said rip apart your. This is while I'm sick, by the way. Worse than Sarah. Rip apart your purse, dump it out, tear through it, and then that's when she found it.
My whole point is I had the biggest fog brain ever because I kept like these people at Walgreens. I'm never going to go back to that one because I was walking like in and out. I had to charge my phone on like one of their kiosks that wasn't charging it.
They
I was
might
like,
have they might have called someone the next 10 minutes to shoot
it's true,
you.
like a manager.
It would have been better.
A manager came up to me because I was just like looking around the aisles all weird.
Loitering.
Loiterer. It was a big.
What is this woman doing? She like drove here to go get some like, I don't know, some like formula without seed oils, and we told her there's no such thing as formula without seed oils, and then she lost her keys, and she's been crying on the curb and harassing customers.
I
And now
felt
she's
like
back in
helpless
asking us,
because
where's
I
the
couldn't-
zero sugar Gatorade?
Yeah, I felt helpless because I couldn't make sense of like what it was so nonsensical, and I like couldn't remember where I had looked. So I must have checked like I swear 12 times in the same spots, and I started to feel like that like panic, like that like I'm falling into the black hole.
You found them.
And then they were in like a little hole that was in the bottom of my purse.
Yeah, by the way, every time you tell me to go get your keys from your purse, that purse sucks. Like, it just sucks. I have to dump out your purse every time I try to find the keys. It's awful.
Yeah.
It's a black hole.
So anyway, my whole point is I haven't been really up on it with my current events.
Caitlin Armstrong, but you told me there's a love triangle between like 3 cyclists. One that's very good looking, and then one that's young, and then one that's older, but they're all fucking each other.
Yes. So it's like there's this cyclist girl who was younger, and
Caitlin Armstrong's the one that's the fugitive that's killed her.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So
she also was charged with larceny, $650 Botox, not paying for it, which is hilarious. Getting Botox.
Did they catch her though? I haven't
for the Botox. I think she was.
No, I mean did they catch her in general? Cause
I haven't paid attention today, but as of yesterday, no.
It's gonna be a pretty weak story with me only knowing the first half, but no, it was very. So they were both like fighting for a while. Obviously, Caitlin was a little bit more upset about this. I think
Only
the other girl
women
was
do
just
this
like,
shit. There's no like. It's like I'm gonna kill a woman not for money, just because she's fucking a guy. Men don't really do this. It's interesting.
I have rehearsal right now. Somebody's gonna knock on the door any minute.
It's okay.
But,
Make them
no,
wait.
What? Let them eat cake. I told BenBen the other day that a lot of his personality is let them eat cake. I can't not. That's your narcissism too, right there. That catchphrase, let them eat cake.
I don't say
you
that.
You could have been Marie.
And Marie Antoinette didn't say that.
You could have been her in a past life. What did she say?
It's a misappropriated quote.
Oh, is it? Well, it was probably like, let them eat something else. Let them eat vittles. No, so Caitlin Armstrong.
When you start sitting that way, everything goes sideways. Like your body sideways, everything goes sideways. When you turn sideways, your brain stops working. Everything. I'm serious. You have to sit.
After I just talked about like how my brain hasn't been functioning
Don't
quite
sit
right.
that way. That's when you're sitting up, you're more. I'm serious. I swear to God, every time you turn sideways and you put your elbow down to prop yourself up and start talking, you go like.
I'm like Bubby. Every time he lays down, he's just out in a little gushy pile.
Do you have anything on this story? Do you have anything to contribute?
Not really, except that I thought it was interesting because the younger girl was a cyclist as well, and it was like some short affair she had had, but she had moved on with her life and was like cycling around the country, and it was Caitlin, who is the older lover, who got really like, back off my man. And it seemed like the younger girl was like, leave me alone. I'm living my life. I don't really give a fuck that much.
It's not reasonable. Kill the younger girl because you think she's a bitch, and then you get nothing. You don't get the guy. You stay in jail.
Yeah, it was very nonsense.
I want to see the new David Cronenberg film. We've been doing this podcast for like an hour and a half, I think. So I'm gonna wrap it up. David Cronenberg film. I want to see it. Crimes of the Future with Viggo Mortensen looks awesome.
Yes, it does. I saw a trailer for it before.
David Cronenberg did History of Violence and obviously amongst other brilliant films, but he's a big fan of Viggo Mortensen. I actually think it'd be cool if David Cronenberg did like a remake of 16 Candles.
Is Kristen Stewart still dating St. Vincent? Annie, are they still together?
The lead singer?
Yeah, you didn't know that? Kristen Stewart and her are dating.
I mean, why do I give a fuck? What does that do for
That's
me?
just a hot power lesbian couple right there. That's like a creme de la creme lesbian.
I liked my favorite Kristen Stewart movie is Personal Shopper. If anyone's has a thing about the long weekend watching a movie, watch Personal Shopper. I think it's an underrated film, especially if you've had anyone in your life that's died. It's kind of that you cared about. It's interesting. So watch that movie. But
also another one, my guitarist, another one I've been raving about that I watched this past weekend that's free on Prime Video is Don't Worry, He Won't Get Far on Foot, which is an amazing cast of like comedians and actors alike, but Joaquin Phoenix plays John Callahan, who's a famous cartoonist.
Don't see that movie.
So
Joaquin
good.
Phoenix is a sack of shit.
I mean, it's something that not many people have heard about, and it's like so. It made me cry like 3 or 4 times just in the fact that it was a beautiful movie about like multiple topics, like just and he's.
I think it's amazing that the school shootings can make Sarah cry, but like an 8-month third trimester abortion, she's like so. I think that's what's fascinating to me, and also Joaquin Phoenix, the fact that he can make anyone cry. That's interesting.
I'm bowing out.
Wait. Last thing, the crew of a $300 million yacht linked to a Russian oligarch is refusing to sail because they're worried they're going to lose their job or like be punished by the billionaire, which I think is hilarious.
That is hilarious.
And the government doesn't have enough people to actually sail the boat, and then they also, the captain of the boat won't give it up to a U.S. crew of like FBI agents because he's like, well, they're not certified. So it's like it's like it's like seizing a Ferrari. It's like a yacht takes tons of people, these 150 foot yachts. So it's hilarious that the semantics are just so difficult. They're trying to get this boat, but like they can't actually sail it. It's like they don't have enough. Like it's like all these people loyal to the billionaire. I think it's also hilarious. And quite frankly, punishing rich people that got rich after the fall of the Soviet Union and because there's some relationship to Putin in that regard, or punishing tennis players because
or my
they're
favorite
Russian,
opera singer,
or
Anna
like,
Netrebko.
what is that? What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
I was honest. I was very.
And while we're protecting our inflation hedge through commodity prices going up, which is making that a soft landing in terms of this recession. Like this whole idea of like that the war on Russia is not a net benefit to other people, including the United States, is a joke. Anyways,
there's Bubby's little warning bell.
Good to talk to you guys. Stay fabulous. DWA, Deplorar.com for DWA merch. Patreon.com/thebenben. Stay fabulous. I'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.